Welcome to TEPSA Talk, the podcast where leaders inspire, share, and grow together. TEPSA is dedicated to celebrating the incredible work happening in education. Each episode, we dive into meaningful conversations with leaders, change-makers, and innovators who are shaping the future of our schools. Whether you're looking for fresh ideas, encouragement, or a little spark to fuel your passion, TEPSA Talk is here for you. Imagine tuning in to hear how leaders are revolutionizing their schools, tackling challenges head-on, and fostering a culture of collaboration. Grab a coffee, hit play, and let's grow together. Welcome to TEPSA Talk.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the TEPSA Talk podcast. I'm your host, Todd Nesloni, the Director of Culture and Strategic Leadership here at the Texas Elementary Principals and Supervisors Association. We are thrilled to bring you different thought leaders from around the world every week, and this week we have someone who's a dear friend of TEPSA, and that is Nick. Nick, thank you so much for being on here. Tell everybody a little bit about who you are.
Thanks, Todd, for having me, and hello, everybody. It's nice to chat with you all today. So my name is Nick Yoder. I'm an Associate Vice President at Harmony Academy at National University, and I head our innovation and research areas. So that means I work on developing products, tools, resources, services that really support relationships and well-being for kids in schools, out-of-school time programs, sports-based settings, families, and healthcare. I also look at our implementation team to really support what is good implementation. So it's not just a program, right, but really becomes a way of being and interacting and experiencing both for kids and adults in the work that they have and the learning environments that they're in. And then I also do lead our research and evaluation. So I really get to see then what is the impact of the work that we're doing. So I've been in kind of the well-being relationship space for about 18 years. Now I've been in education for 22, started off as a first grade teacher, went and got my PhD, and really kind of dove into the intersection of social and personal development and with academics, and really kind of been thinking about the intersection of research, policy, and practice, but really how we're creating conditions for the adults who then can create conditions for the kiddos.
I love it. Oh my goodness. Okay, so there's like 1,000 things we could talk about today, obviously, with all of your background and experience. And I know Harmony is a dear friend over here at TEPSA as well. And so let's dive into something that, we hear the word thrown around all the time in education, and that is the word relationships. And so I think, it's such an easy thing to say, build relationships, connect with students. And one thing we've all learned over the last couple years, especially, is that importance of those relationships has been even more instrumental into lasting longer in this field, but also finding more success in what you're doing. So define to me your ultimate definition of relationships and what that means for you.
That's a great question. I don't think there's one definition of a relationship, right? Because you have so many different types of relationships in your life, right? Like you're going to have a mentor, you're going to have a peer, you're going to have a family member, you're going to have a spouse, you're going to have partners, you're going to have best friends, acquaintances, you're going to have networks, right? And all of these mean something slightly different to you as a human being, right? And how you develop them and what you need from them varies from person to person. So I would say then, so with that caveat, our relationship really is what is a meaningful interaction, support network, engagement with other people where you get to know someone in a very meaningful way for you and for that person.
I love that. And and really talking about this from an administrator perspective, I know, as a principal or an assistant principal, we're always talking about building those relationships with students, and we're always pushing teachers to do that. But sometimes they don't really know how to build relationships with every type of student. What is some advice that you would have as the school leader of what I can do with my team to give them more ideas on how to connect with some students they might be struggling with?
So it's also important to recognize you're not going to have the same type of relationship with every kid, right? Like you are a human being and you can only develop so many relationships with so many other people too, right? And that's why, the researchers really says as long as a student has one or two trusted adults within a school, that's what's really important, right? Like, so as long as they are engaging with somebody, like in a very meaningful, purposeful way where they trust them, they engage with them, they connect with them, they get advice from them, they get mentorship from them. Like that's what's really key. So I think the role as a school leader, one is to recognize that you can't be everything for everyone, which is okay. But that you can create the conditions that everybody can be someone for somebody else, right? And I think that's what's really important there, right? And so in order to do that, one, I think is, are you simple things? Are you greeting every kid at the door, right? And I know that's like a simple thing that we say all the time, but it's really one of the most effective evidence-based practices to create belonging in a school or classroom, right? So are you up front, center, smiling, waving, making sure that they're seen, right? The other thing is that I was just actually sitting in professional learning all day with educators in Chicago, and really on kind of really thinking about well-being and relationships. And almost everyone was talking about like embedding classroom meetings, right? And it's something simple that we've been talking about for a really long time, but I don't think everybody does it in an intentional way. So as a school leader, are you creating that space that allows educators to actually create those moments in their classroom where they can have a community meeting and really setting the structure? And then two, are you modeling it? Are you supporting your own well-being? Are you building the relationships for yourself? Like, right? Like, kids are sponges. Kids see what the adults do in the building, and as the leader, if you're modeling really good relationships, really good well-being, they're going to follow suit too.
And there's so many different things that I want to mention there that you just brought up. And the first is that you talked about as simple as standing at the door. And I think that's something that so many people I see start at the beginning of the year, but sometimes it can die out as the year progresses. And that's the moment, especially when you need to continue it so that they see like you are committed and you are still showing up for me. So I love that you mentioned that. But I also love that you mentioned administrators just giving their people the freedom to have those morning meetings, the freedom to connect. Because sometimes people feel like they need permission because all they hear is curriculum, curriculum, curriculum. And so having those other relationship moments is good too. But the last thing I want to bring up again that you said is they're watching you and how you are building connections. So I think that's such a valuable thing to remember is how are you connecting with your people as a school leader? Because the kids are watching how you talk to other staff members, how you do different things like that. So I love that you shared that. Now, you work for Harmony, who also helps provide supports. Because I know sometimes we hear things and we hear these ideas and it's like, okay, but I need something tangible. Like I need something that will help walk me through because some of my people, they're ready to take an idea and run with it. Other ones of my people, like they need a little bit more support along the way. So what does Harmony do to support that kind of work with us?
Yeah, we do it a number of ways. So one is sort of like our program, and I put program in quotes because Harmony is not meant to be just a curriculum, right? It really is meant to create harmonious relationships. It's meant to be a tool to form the relationships, right? Like just because you have it in your building or your classroom doesn't mean relationships are going to happen, right? Like you have to use it with intention. And that's really what we do, right? So there's two core pieces of how we define how you build meaningful relationships. One is you need those intentional opportunities. So we have these things called everyday practices that really support kids in like one is called Buddy Up. So that's where you're paired with a new student every week. So that way you're automatically paired with every kid throughout the school year a couple times. So just because you're in space with someone doesn't mean you actually form harmony or relationship with them. So it's really intentionally setting people together, right? And there's an example where we were in a school in New York City, and two kids were kind of sharing that they were in a buddy up, and the question was like, "What are you really good at?" And it was a boy and a girl, and one was like, "Well, I need help in like math, right? Like I'm not very good in math." And the boy was like, "Hey, I'm actually really good at math." And then he's like, "I really struggle with relationships and being social." And she's like, "I'm super popular." And then they just became like really good friends throughout the year because of that simple question of like, what do you need support in? And so having these intentional moments to allow kids to connect in that way with kids that they normally don't connect with is really impactful. The other thing that we recognize is just not the intentional moments, but you actually need the skills, right? Like, and we hear this all the time too, as we even think of like employers, the durable skills that we're thinking of now, right? Or character education skills, like those types of skills, like teamwork, perseverance, growth mindset, emotion regulation, conflict resolution, interpersonal problem solving, like these types of skills. So we have an explicit skill instruction that's easily embedded into the academic curriculum that really helps teachers and educators really kind of create and explicitly support that skill development that's not only helpful for the relationships in school, but also helps them kind of later on in life in kind of the career and workforce.
Well, and as I'm hearing you talk, I'm thinking this is so good to have with kids, but also like I need this with my staff. Like
Yeah.
I can definitely use the exact same lessons that I'm doing with my students, but like incorporate them into my staff meetings and things like that. So A, they can see me using the content, but also we can help grow all those soft skills in
Yeah.
all of us because I think it's just something that is so beneficial. And so for those who might be listening thinking, Nick, this is great. Like, I believe in this, but like, how do we make time? Like, academics are key. Like, I still got to be moving kids forward. And they haven't yet made the connection that behavior directly reflects
Yeah.
academics and people wanting to achieve directly reflects academics. How do you kind of make that pitch to them of saying, this is why this matters and it will improve the academics as well?
Yeah, so we have a federal grant that we were working in San Antonio, Texas, and of really thinking about what does relationship well-being and integration. So how are we combining harmony with the academic time? And there's a really simple example and I'll share broadly what we support, but one quick example. I was observing a classroom, and then afterwards the teachers were saying, I'm still really struggling with what this means and looks like. And they're like, particularly, my kids came in and like they were just having like a lot of problems and they couldn't get settled down and situate themselves to get ready for the next lesson. And I was like, well, did you teach, the step it up approach, which is our conflict resolution approach in harmony? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, well, did you mention that step it approach when they came back into the classroom? They're like, no. And I was like, and I was like, well, that's academic integration, right? Like you're now bringing the skill that you just taught them and now bringing it into the academic space to set them up for learning and into the classroom space. So you're kind of making it applicable to the kids, right? And so we kind of create these like mini moments with this grant about how do you kind of take the core concepts of harmony and kind of explicitly name it for 2 minutes and then reinforce it. So like you might be doing a lesson on like emotion management, for example, right? And math, right? Like lots of people freak out about math, they get math anxiety. And so you kind of do something and then they, how are you feeling? Do emotional check. Where are you on the thermometer? All right, cool. Now let's go keep going. Oh, now where are you at? And then be like, why were you different emotion or had a different emotion during these different times? What was coming up for you? Right? And so it's really simple 30-second checks with kids throughout the lesson that helps them both process kind of their thinking and their feeling because that deepens learning, right? Because you don't learn without emotion, right? Emotion, and you don't learn without other people. So inextricably, like all of our learning is really focused on how we can process our emotions and how can we can engage with other people.
What I love though is that this sounds so easy and it is, but it really makes a difference. And when you are intentional and you have those supports, you really can make an impact. And so, I'm the kind of person though, Nick, where I hear stuff and I'm like, okay, that sounds great, but like, can I try it? Can I like play around with some things, make sure it's a fit for me, my people, my kids? Does Harmony allow that kind of stuff? Like if I wanted to try it as an administrator or even as a teacher, would I be able to just test it out?
Yeah, so the cool thing about Harmony is we are a no cost or primarily no cost resource. So our base curriculum you can find at harmonyacademy.org. Sign on, register for our portal at no cost, and try some of our resources out. Yeah, so it's really
Awesome.
simple to be able to try it out. And then we also, to your point about skill development for educators, we also have a professional learning side of the arm where we actually have a whole series on educator well-being where they're walking through like problem solving, managing up, like how do they work with you as a leader? How are they building relationships with families and with kids? So we do have a whole series of trainings too and support on kind of educators themselves.
Now, I love that you mentioned though that you mentioned the educator well-being. Talk to me a little bit more about like what that looks like and why I would find value in that as a school leader.
Yeah, so for a number of reasons. One is educator well-being is really closely tied to teacher retention. Like how teachers feel about their working conditions, how they perceive themselves in that space. Do they feel like they have autonomy? Do they feel connected? Do they feel like they're accomplished? Do they feel safe? Like all of these basic human needs like are influenced by the conditions that leaders set, right? And then they're more likely to stay when they feel well because then they have the support structures in place, they have the kind of emotional space, they have their skills that they have, right? And so your teachers are more likely to stay. So that's one, and that's obviously better for the kids because they're having better instructional practices throughout, throughout their time in your school, because people are staying. It creates a better culture because people are staying. And then, there's findings on actual academic outcomes for kids the higher a teacher feels in a school.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
No, and all that makes perfect sense. And what I love most about you sharing all this is just the simple fact that focusing on these skill sets, focusing on these important items, they affect everything. And
Yeah.
I think that's one reason why we can't just gloss over this and we can't act like it's something silly that we don't have time for, because it literally affects every piece of our day, the relationships that we're building. So I love all of that. So, Nick, if people were wanting to dive into this and learn more, where could they go to do that?
Yeah, our website is harmonyacademy.org. Again, all of our base curriculum is at no cost, with some additional supports that we provide for sure to actually deepen implementation and their supports in schools and classrooms across the country.
Awesome. Harmonyacademy.org. I hope you guys go check it out. Nick, there's one question I always love to end these conversations
Yeah.
on. And that is, people could have heard all sorts of things or may not have heard anything at all, but if you want them to walk away with one thing, what is your one thing for them today?
I say be mindful of how you are modeling good relationships. I think how we as adults really process and think about our own relationships, both outside and inside of school, is really important. And when we do that, we'll have better relationships with our kids, and they'll have better relationships with each other.
I love it. Thank you so much, Nick, for joining us. I hope everybody goes and checks out this amazing resource. We are proud to support it here at TEPSA, and we hope to see all of you at our summer conference, June 9th through 11th, here at the Kalahari in Round Rock, Texas. You are not going to want to miss it. Head on over to tepsa.org, that's tepsa.org, and go like this, comment, leave a review, all those kind of things help our episodes get out to more people, and we'll see you again for an all-new episode next time.